So let's jump a little bit into Google Sheets, and the first thing we needed to learn how to do is just how to move around in here. So my arrows on my keyboard can kind of move me between cells, but really to select a cell, I just click in that cell and I could enter information in there or copy or paste it or do what I need to do just by clicking in that cell. That's going to kind of move me around and navigate me throughout this sheet. The only thing to be careful or mindful of is really not to click in that bottom right hand corner. You can see my cursor changes from the arrow to sort of a plus sign. So that little square, that bottom right hand corner, is what's known as the fill handle. And it's a really important tool, has a lot of purposes in Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets. But if you click there, sometimes it can kind of not catch. So if you want to just make sure you're selecting the cell, you just click sort of in the middle of the body of the cell. So that's selecting individual cells, but let's say you wanted to select an entire row or column. Well, that's pretty easy as well. You could just click on the number of the row that you want to select. So if I want to select row 5, I just click row 5 and you can see it selects all the way across on my whole sheet. Likewise for columns, if I want to select column D, I just click on the letter D and it's going to select that entire column all the way down my sheet. And same goes for any other column. So that's how to select rows and columns there. If I wanted to select the entire sheet, I would actually click this area between the row and the column heading. So this is actually a little button in the top left here. And if I click that, you can see it's going to select everything on my sheet. But it does select even these empty cells. So you can see to the right and kind of down below my data, I have a lot of empty cells, and it is going to select that as well. If I wanted to select it all and just sort of constrain to the cells that have information in it, then I would do a select all feature. So that could be a keyboard shortcut. If you have a Windows computer, you would do Control A. Control A would select all of that. And if you have a Mac computer, Command A would be the keyboard shortcut there. And you can see what that does is it selects all of my information and it kind of constrains it just to the cells that have stuff in them. There's nothing to the right of it or down below. So that's sort of selecting cells and rows and columns. If I wanted to select just sort of a custom range, I could do a couple things. I could click and hold my click. So I'm kind of holding down on that left mouse button and just drag to the selection that I want. Or I could hold Shift. So let's say I want to select, I'm in column C and I want to select rows 2 through 10. So I clicked on row 2. If I hold down Shift and just click once again, that's going to select all of those in that sort of continuous range. So it's selecting 2 through 10 if I hold down the Shift button. If I just want to select 2 and 10, so I don't want to include 3, 4, 5, and so on, I would hold the Control button or Command on a Mac. So I click again in row 2, and I'm holding the Control button and clicking on row 10, and now you can see it's just selected those two, but it's disregarded the information in between. And I could go throughout my sheet, you're just continually holding down the Control button or the Command button if I'm on a Mac computer, and it's just going to select those discontinuous cells. So holding Shift keeps it all kind of constrained to continuous ranges. And if I just want to kind of bounce around or select things that are discontinuous, I would hold down Control or Command there. So these little shortcuts are really important for just copying information really quickly. So let's say I wanted to send an email to everybody to all of these email addresses that I have here in column B. The fastest way to do that would just be to select column B by clicking on that letter B. But I don't want to send an email to email address. I don't need that sort of first row of data. So I'm going to hold down Control or Command, depending if I'm on a Windows or Mac. If I hold down Control and click email address, it's actually going to deselect too. So the same rules apply for deselecting cells. Or let's say I didn't want to send an email to D Hanover, so I would hold down Control again and just deselect that, and I could go through the range and just pick the ones that I wanted to disregard there, or include them again by continually holding down. So now I have all of those email addresses sort of selected. I can do, I can right click and copy those, or I could do the keyboard shortcut, sorry, let me select that again. The keyboard shortcut Command C or Control C, and it's going to copy all of those. And then I could just fire up my email and paste them into this, the to field, and I'd be able to email all of those addresses pretty quickly. So that's a little bit about navigating a spreadsheet, just getting the sort of the basics down of selecting rows and columns in the entire sheet, and we'll continue moving on from there.